In this video, we're going to look at quadratic inequalities. And for each example, we want to find where the inequality is true. In the first example, I have x squared is less than 10 minus 3x. And the first step is to get everything on one side of the inequality. So I'm going to move everything to the left side. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 10 is less than 0. And now I'm going to factor x squared plus 3x minus 10 and write it in linear factors. So I have x minus 2 times x plus 5 is less than 0. And from here in the textbook, they show a couple of different diagrams. I prefer the sign chart. And so we draw a sign chart or a straight line, and then we put our zeros on the chart. So we have here x minus 2, so we have a 0 at 2, and we have a 0 at negative 5. And now what I'm going to do is check a number in each interval, and I'm going to see what the sign is, whether it's positive or negative. And it doesn't matter what number in the interval you choose. So any number between negative infinity and negative 5 works for our first interval. And here, if we were to plug negative 6 in, we'd have negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8, so we'd have a negative number. And minus 6 plus 5 is a negative number. Two negative numbers multiplied together give us a positive number. And in the interval between negative 5 and 2, I'm going to choose 0 because it's the easiest number. So I have negative 2 times 5, and that's a negative number. And now, in the interval from 2 to infinity, I'm going to choose 3. 3 minus 2 is positive, and 3 plus 5 is positive. Positive times positive is a positive. So now, we're looking for everywhere where x squared plus 3x minus 10 is less than 0. And we found that it's less than 0 between negative 5 and 2. And we're not going to include negative 5 and 2 because we just want to be strictly less than 0. So our solution in interval notation is negative 5 to 2. And between negative 5 and 2, x squared is less than 10 minus 3x. In the next example, we have x squared is less than or equal to 8x. So again, I'm going to move everything to the left side. So I have x squared minus 8x is less than or equal to 0. Now, the most common mistake made on a problem like this is people are tempted to divide an x from both sides. And we'll see why you can't make that step and get the correct answer. Because just like in the last problem, I'm going to factor the left side. And I'm going to write it as x times x minus 8 is less than or equal to 0. So if you divide both sides by x, you have x is less than or equal to 8, and that's already your solution. But here we can see that you lose the 0 because x can be 0 and x can be 8. So our sign diagram needs to have 0 and 8, and now we need to check our intervals just like we did before. So any negative number, negative 1 times negative 9 is positive. Two negatives is positive. If we choose 1, we have 1 times negative 7, or a negative answer. And then if we choose 9, we have 9 times 1, which is a positive answer. So if we had done it the other way, and I keep stating it, but I'm going to show it now, if we divided both sides by x, we would have x is less than or equal to 8. And you would see that this would include everything less than 0 as well, which we know is not true. So here in interval notation, x squared is less than negative 8x when x is in between 0 and 8. And this time we used brackets because we want to be less than or equal to, so we include the endpoints. In the last example, I have x squared plus 1 is less than 2x. So I'm going to move the 2x to the left, so I have x squared minus 2x plus 1 is less than 0. And now I'm going to write it as x minus 1 squared, since it's a perfect square, and that's less than 0. And for this problem, We're just going to take a look at what we have instead of drawing a sign diagram. Here, we have a statement on the left saying that x minus 1 squared is less than 0. And we know whenever we square a number, it can never be negative. So here we could say that this inequality has no solution. Now, had they given us x squared plus 1 is less than or equal to 2x, now we wouldn't have no solution. We would just have a single answer because we would end up with x squared minus 2x plus 1 is less than or equal to 0, and then x minus 1 squared is less than or equal to 0. And because of the inequality, we would have an answer at 1 and nothing else. So here our solution would just be 1, or we could say x is equal to 1 to be a little more exact. And that's all for this video on quadratic inequalities.